do this first video with the Florida Fantasy 5. So I used the splits program to make sure it's updated by opening up my TLEX and then the splits program. I'll make sure my setup's correct. Close that. I will, when I click my build, I just do the slider because everything else is already updated, and then click continue to build it for the slider database only, and then the I don't want to click erase because I've already got my sets generated. So when I click open, it'll open up the right and left of my program here. So I want to exit out of them, but you can see my database. This is the back three for the slider. Is what my auto tune. Whenever I clicked auto tune, it moved everything. So I always move my slider half. It was at 51. So half of 51 is going to be 25. And then obviously I click run. When I click run, it generates these 10 numbers over here. I've already got them. They're actually over here on my other screen. Um, so I've already generated the front set and the back set. Trying to get my things here resituated on my other screen so I can drag them over as needed. Okay, so once I do the auto tune and then slide my slider down, I let it generate the sets. Now I always have it set to where it generates the low sets. The key here is you can see when I click my control panel, I'm on the back three of the TLEX program. So it automatically sets it as a numbers game. You have to click the pick three, and I have to move my header down to 0 and the start down to 10. If it's anything above that, whenever I click auto tune, all my slide bars automatically drop down to a 0.10% all the way across the board. So I have to have my settings like this. I'll click the pick three, and then over here you can see where it says pool size. Well, you can click this square all day long and it don't change the number. You have to go down to the balls drawn and click, and when I left click this, you'll see this number go up to 10. But you can see where my mouse is over here in the balls drawn to get that up to a 10, and then everything else is set the way I run it. I'll exit out of that and then click auto tune, and when it does its tune up, like I said, I slide the slider down to, and I only do this one time because if I erase these sets and click run again, it will give me 10 totally different numbers. One of the things that, of course, I'm in the Fantasy 5, so once I click them, I do that for the front three and the back three. So now that you've seen that and you've seen basically how to, every time you click this, it doesn't remember your last setting, so you always have to go back and change these particular numbers. And then your pool size, you got to climb up to 10. I don't know why that's off like that, but you have to do the one down below it in order to get that to move. So as long as everybody understands that, we're basically on the same page. So that generated my numbers. Uh, generated my numbers for the right side and generated my numbers for the left side right here. These are the first three, and then these over here are the back three. These are what I use for my slots. Obviously, the 4, the 8, the 6s, 7s don't count because this slider program doesn't know that I don't go above a 3 in the Fantasy 5. But I'll use because it's got all four of them. I'll put the 0, 1, 2, and 3 in my slots. Over here, I've got the first set, the front set loaded as SL pick three, first the first three. Uh, and last night I was showing you that over here it shows the last three. So the first thing I want to look at is I'll click on three, and then I'll kind of look over here and see what follows the three. You can see over here there was a two, a one, a one, a one, nothing, a one, a two, and then there was a four, which rarely happens, but and then another one, and a two, and a one, and a two, a one, two, one. So I expect the next one to be a two. So I'm going to lower this to a two. But if you look at my top row right here, basically you're saying that two of these out of these five, two of them are going to be the star, which is your flip. So I know the first one is not going to flip. So I'm automatically going to change that to a stay the same because you can see it never changes. In my Florida Fantasy 5, this one here will never change. So that means out of two of them, these last four, two of them are going to be flips and then two of them are going to be wilds. So it will run all the different sets of that setting. So then I'll go down here and I can see where this is a 1. I'll click that to a 1 and I'll look to see what follows that the most. And it's basically twos and threes. There's a lot of twos. There's a nothing there, a two, another two, and if you look here, there's another two. So this one also, you would think is going to be a two. Whenever I decide that, before I click the run, let me erase them sets. Before I click the run, uh, I look at my Q stats, and you can see that there was 583 times out of the 5,000 games that I have entered that the two and the two uh, matched up. So if I change that to a three and then hit Q stats, you can see is 582. So I'm gonna look back over here and I'm gonna say once again I'll take a quick look and see how many times it followed the one. So when I go back over here to the one, I'm going to see how many times that it actually had a 3. There's only one time there, and if I have a 1, a 3 doesn't follow that one hardly at all. So more than likely it's going to be the 2, and the 2 only had one extra number or two extra numbers. It was, what was it, 583 versus uh, 582. So there's only one difference, and that's if you have a 2 up front. So if I change that 2 up top and then look at my stats, it went from 583 down to 367. If I change that down to a 2 and look at my stats, it's only 382. So I'm pretty certain that it's going to be a 2 and a 2 tonight. With that being said, because only two of these are going to be flips, and two of these are going to be flips, I know that that one's not going to flip in the first position. So down here, I'm going to look at all these and try to decide which ones are either going to flip or go ahead and miss. Now, this bottom one down here, it was a flip on the last time, and you can see where most of the time when you see a flip, you'll see it flip again. So I'm going to make this one here as one of my flips. That's the only decisions that I'm going to make. So now only one of these will be flips and the other ones will remain the same when it generates my sets. So whenever I run that, it generated 24 numbers. So out of them 24 numbers, then I'm going to click my filter, uh, and then I'm going to put in the first position, I'll do the 0, 1, 2, and the 3. In my second position, I'll do the 2, 4, 6, 3, 0, 1, 5. I'll put them in right there. And then in my third position will be the 6, 7, 5, 1, 9. Uh, I'll put them in the last position and then click filter. Whenever I do that, it brings that 24 sets. It brings that 24 sets down to 4 sets, which are them four right there. So I'm gonna keep a hold of them for a minute, and then once I got that figured out, but I always look at my Q stats to see how the 2 and the 2 match up. And like I said, it's 583 versus a 2 and a 3 at 582. But it looks like to me what follows the last hit, basically, there's more 2s here and more 2s down here than there would be a 3. So, and then I try to make this in here is obviously a gimme. So if I wanted to make one more decision down through here somewhere of what I think might miss or flip, that can lower that 24 sets. But at this point in time, 24 sets ain't bad because once I put my filter in place, it filters it down to four numbers by using these as my slot picks. And in the first position, obviously, I don't use anything above a 3 because my lottery doesn't have that. So once I run them sets, then I have I'll do the same thing for the back numbers. Uh, I'll look and see what hit. Looks like there was four of them that hit on that last one, so I'll bring that down to a 4. I'll take a quick look. There was a 3, a 3, a 2, a 2, 3, a 2, 3, a 2. So it's either going to be a 2 or a 3. So I'll look at when I click the 2, I'm going to look at my hits and misses each time. You can see a 2 is obviously pretty common. The 3 is as well, but there's bigger spreads in between it. So I kind of like the 2 right there. And then, like I said, in this particular case, I'm going to see what hits. This very top one was a flip, and you can see that when anytime there's a flip, there's normally a flip that rides right along with it. There's just a few times that it don't. So out of them two flips that I think is going to happen, I believe that first one is going to be one of my flips. Then I'll do the same thing down here at the bottom. I'll make my decision. This was nothing hit, so I'll highlight the 0. Obviously, you don't have as much to look at here. There was a 4, a 5, a 4, a 3, and then so basically what's gonna follow. The 4 looked like it out of the few choices that I had. The 4 looked like it was gonna hit or a 3. The 3 is obviously more common, so now I'm going to look at my Q stats on a 2 in the first position and a 3, how often that hits. And that hits 478. I'll move this over to a 4. It's not going to be near as good. So that helps me make a decision on a 3 right here. I'll move that up to a 3. I'll take a look at that. That is 516 times versus it being a 2. So at that point in time, because it's 478. So now I might consider putting a 3 up here. I'll take a quick look at how long it's been since a 3 has hit. Uh, as far as my skips and hits, how many? There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times. Uh, we don't have what the average hit is each time, for the 3, so you can only basically kind of look at that. Uh, you can see down here where the 2 is a pretty common number. I don't think I checked the stats on that one. That's 501. So if I close that and then go back over here to a 2 and check the stats there for a 2 and a 2, that's 503. So down here, I'm looking probably more at a 2 instead of the 3. Uh, so I want to leave that as a 2 and a 2. Down here, I'm going to see what 2 may flip or which ones I kind of expect more to miss. So I'll do a quick. This second to last one here has missed 3 times. It's basically been the same 4 in a row. So I'll look, but it's got three repeats. I'll look how often that 3 repeats happens. Do I ever get a 4 in here? There is one 4, but there's 2 4s. So most of the time it's 3 or less. So I think one of my flips is going to be that one right there. I will erase them sets. I'll click run. That gives me 13 sets to look at. Uh, so then I click my filter mode and I will look at my these numbers right here. I'll put the 736, 7368029 80295. Next one will be 6580172. So 6580172. And a lot of you think, well, heck, you're putting 8 out of 10 numbers there. Yeah, you are. But by the time I filter it down, let's just see what happens here. So the last column will be a 480192. So 480192. 480192. And then I'll click filter. It filtered down to 5 sets. So whenever I close that, I'll click view. I'll use these 5 sets as my right side um, for my sets to play. So what do I do with my left set? Over here is my left set. Here is my right set. So I will bring in uh, my generate. I'll click open. This is my right one. So because it's such a short list, instead of clicking edit, select all, I'll just simply highlight them, right click, copy, come over here and paste them. Hit file, save. I'll exit out of that. And then this is my left set, which I already have over here as my left set. So I'll click that, or I'll save them. As I save them, I'll click the generate. It built my numbers for my TLEX. These are going to be my numbers for my TLEX. I'll open up TLEX, erase what's in there, and then click view so it'll open up as a blank. Select all, right click, copy, paste them, file, save, and I can exit out of all this, and you'll see where it saved 68 sets. So out of the 68 sets, I want to filter that down to a playable set of numbers. So I'll click my Digit Master. Whenever I have my Digit Master set, I'll clear whatever numbers may be in the file. I'll run from file mode. Click on my Florida 536 game, and it took them 68 sets down to 22. I'd like to get that a little bit lower, so I'll see if the RAC didn't do anything for me. So I'm going to clear them back out and I'm going to choose one digit that I do not want to come back. If you click database, this is kind of interesting in Florida here. A 4 has come up literally 11 times right here. There's a four, the right digit, a four, a couple fours, a four, 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 and a four. So four has been super hot. At this stage in time, I think it's been too hot. I'm going to go ahead and make that a zero, and that's the only thing I'm going to change. I leave all these filters run wild. I put these 40s and 50s because that don't apply to my game, so I make them zeros. I only think 130 is going to come. A couple in the single digits, couple teens, and I'll go as far as 320s. These are my other settings that I do. I'll do a big spread or a couple spread up here and a couple spread here. If you look at the database, it's basically 6-5 or a 7, 5-7 or a 6. And then the next one, we it most of the time runs 5-6 or a 7. I do have it between 4 and a 7. The only other few that I set is the double odd and the double even. Excuse me. You can see how often the double odd and double even, it's very seldom do you see a zero in there, but obviously it happens. But more often than not, it's going to be one or two, one or two. The other ones are the high lows and the low highs. And if you look at them over here, the high lows and the low highs, the the high low is a one or a two most of the time. The low high is a two or a three most of the time. You can see there. So instead of putting them at single digits, I leave a spread between them and these up here. If I feel pretty confident on how many, you can always click and look at the stats over here to see what the game's out or the game's averages are, uh, and change that to a single digit if if you feel good about your decision. I leave them a little spread. Let's see what this does for us. So I go to my Florida 536. I went from 68 sets down to 11 sets. I'm happy with that. That was basically just by setting the zero and out the four, and everything else I have set to run wild. Uh, and like I said, I've only got just a few filters. So I went from 68 sets down to 11 sets. So with that being said, these are going to be my 11 sets that it's suggesting to play tonight. And, I'm, who knows if my decisions were right. And that was kind of, running through some things fairly quick. So these videos ain't super long. But that was how I filter through my Digit Master from Telex instead of going through. Now, another way that I also do it, whenever I have, let me eliminate these back to a wild, and I only want to set these right here. So let's erase that set and then click run. Now it gives me 96 sets. So before I do any other filtering, let's hit the stage filter. And if you look at your stages, if you click the stage, you can see that 0 or 1 obviously hits the most. The average over here, it's out currently 2 games. It's 2.7. You could probably be safe and put a 1 right there. I don't like doing that. I just click. I'll lower the first just because I know what I set them at. The first couple are a 0 or a 1. You can see 0 or 1 is most prevalent. 0 or 1. I do pay attention to the averages over here whenever I'm making these decisions. I'll go over here, 0 or 1. You can see that in there. I almost say it's going to be a 0. So if I single value just one of them and leave the others as just a small spread, go from 96 sets, click run, down to 22 sets. So if I click the 22 sets and then come back over here and put in my filters, uh, and I'm going to say my filters are going to be a 1 or a 2. This is going to drastically change just by filtering. That left me with 6 sets. Uh, 6 Lexi digits to play for the first 3, just by selecting a 1 or a 2 uh, to filter down. So I don't remember what that number was before. What was it, 22 or something. So I filtered from using the exploit. I filtered from 20 or 96 sets down to 22, and then I changed the 22 sets down to 6 sets. And then you'll take them 6 sets and move them into your. I already got it open. You'll move them into your open, or your right and lefts here, uh, and then transfer them into your TLEX program. Now, with that being said, that's basically how I do my pick 3 game, pick 4 games. I'll do basically the same thing. I will look at these. I always highlight what was hit last. In this case, it was a 2. I'll look and see what follows a 2. I'll look and see how many times a 2 follows a 2. I might leave that like it is. I'll go down here. A 2 was down there as well. I will look at that. A 2 doesn't follow quite as often, uh, but with the 2 highlighted, I'll check and see what follows it the most. Take a quick look at that, and then I'll take a look at my stats to give me an idea of a 2 and a 2 has only happened 293 times. If I change that to a 3 and look at that stat, that's 306. So that's more likely. You can change these just a little bit to give you an idea. That's obviously a lot lower. So let's move that one back down to a 3. Let's move that one up to a 3. Oops, clicked the wrong button. Hope nothing changes here. Okay, so I hit my, yeah, what I have up here. I had a 2 and a 3. My quick stats. That's 306. Then if I move that to a 3, it's 275. Move that down to a 2. That's 275. So looks like to me that was a 3 and a 3 had, no, it wasn't. It was a 2 and a 3, wasn't it? I'm trying to hurry here, but a 2 and a 3. Look at my quick stats, and you can see where the that's probably the most common. But whenever I done my setup for tonight, if I was to click run right here, just by them, I've got 100 sets. Now, I'm going to erase them 100 sets, and I'm only going to pick one value down here that I think is going to come back. Um, and, and this is just to show you how you can reduce your sets pretty good. If I look at that, that's hit a lot of times in a row. It's rare that that happens. So I'm going to say that that one there is going to be a repeat. So that'll go from a star to a dash after the fact, or after, just by putting one on each side and then selecting a single value there. I'll click run again, and that knocked it from 100 sets down to 16 sets. And then you'll do your filter using your front numbers. When I done this evening and done my filtering, uh, this is what I come up with. This is my slider for my pick 3. Let me get these off my screen. This is my slider for my pick 3 right here. These numbers right here. And then these were my picks after I'd done my setup that I just showed you. So if you see the 660 here and the 660 there, them numbers match. Down here at the bottom, the 934 and the 934 match. So them there would be a couple numbers that I would definitely be interested in playing. And I'm also wanting to, instead of playing, well, I think there's 16 numbers here or something, instead of playing 16 numbers, I know I want to play them too, the 934 and the 660, just because they match dead on. The next thing I want to play is any numbers that are going to be a one-off number. So if I start with my very first number, the 017, and I go down through here and see what's close, this one right here is basically one off digit. So the 9, the next number would be a 0. So the 017 I would play. The 078 I would play because it's a one digit off. The 114, even though I have a couple 1s, it's not one digit off. I would eliminate that one from my play. I would I would literally delete it. Uh, and then I'll look at the 210. I'll see if I have any that are one off from a 210. I do not have. The 257 I don't have. It's two digits off there, and that's the only one. So I know I'm going to delete them two. I'll look at the 270. I do not have any that are within one digit off of the 270. So I'm going to delete them as well. And then go on down, the 657. I'm not interested in playing the 657. The next one, the 660, obviously is a straight match. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So I kind of want to do away with just a few more. I don't mind playing 10 or under. That's really not a problem. But so this next number down here, the 912, if you look down through here, I'll play that because it's one digit off of the 812. So the next one is 874. I don't have anything that is close, so I'm going to eliminate that one from my play. Uh, the 814, I don't have anything that is close to the 814. I mean, that one there's close, but it's a couple digits off, so I'm not interested in playing the 814. The 811, I will play because it's only one digit off right here. So I'll eliminate the 814. I will eliminate the 814. And this video is probably getting long, so you kind of understand what I'm doing here. And these were filtered down with my slot picks. Whenever, because actually generated the 100 lines off of these, and that number right there, what was that? A 7, I think. So I'll put that back in just so I can save that. So, uh, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There's 9 numbers. I don't have a problem playing 9 numbers. These would be the 9 that I play. I can also probably eliminate just a few more. The 667. I have a 660, but not a 667. Nothing that's close to that. I can eliminate a few more. Probably get it down to just 5 or 6 numbers to play. The 670 I would play because it's only one digit off over there. And the 679, I don't have anything close to the 679 that's only one digit off. So I'll eliminate that one and then play basically them 8 that are left. So I'm going to cut this video at this point in time. I certainly hope this helps you out, checking out your stats and stuff. There's a few different things like for my TLEX. Whenever I am looking for when I'm using my slots, one of the things that I do look at is over here. These are my slot picks, what position they was in for the previous night, and then you can kind of see what follows some of these digits. So if a 0 hit here, it's come back with a high number, low number, and then a lot of times it's a 2 or a 3, more than not. So in that particular position, whenever you're doing your slot picks, uh, in this position over here, I would be looking at a 2 or a 3 uh, for my next. So whenever I went to filtering, the 5, 4, and the 6 is something that I would have looked at pretty hard. So if I was just looking at the last column over here and I thought that was going to be a 2 or a 3. The only one that I would actually play is the 4. So that would knock all them numbers down to basically one single number just by eliminating everything except for the number that has a 4 in it. So if you look over here, the only number that has a 4 in it is that 934. So I don't know. Let's see what happens for tonight. I'm pretty happy with my pretty happy with that particular setup and my picks. I like that 660. I like that 934. They were straight picks, and then there was a few of them that are one off, and everybody knows the slider seems to be real good about being a one off. So you definitely kind of want, if it's not too many numbers to play, you want to throw that in your play mix as well. So this video is already 35 minutes long. I'm sure you guys get tired of hearing me rattle. So hopefully it makes a little better sense to you. You might have to watch it a couple times to actually let it sink in of what I'm doing and how I go about getting from 100 sets literally down to 20 22 sets or whatever it was, 16 sets in this case instead of 100. If I, once again, if I make them just zeros and run that, it is literally 100 sets. So just by making one decision here and these two decisions right there, I went from 100 down to 16, 16 lines before I ever clicked my filter. So hopefully this helps. Good luck to everybody.